Hello and welcome to part 2 of exercise 9, chapter 4. Now we can review the code used in this exercise. First, I open up x9_log_start.svelte data chapter 4 folder. You will need in exercise list.json to have just this file x9_log_start. This imports the goto command for programmatic navigation and then navigates to the /login route. This expects to find a +page.svelte routing file in that folder. Every route must have a folder and a +page.svelte. Next, open up the route a login +page.svelte routing file. This looks like just a regular Svelte file with script, markup, and style sections. This imports a dashboard file for successful login, the goto command for programmatic navigation, and sets some state for the login form. Next is a cancel function called by cancel button to redirect back to exercises. After that we have a login function, which is called in the markup by clicking the login button. This uses the fetch command for the login route and specifies the method, headers, and body as shown. Note that method post is designed for sending data to the server securely in the request body. It doesn't expose this data in the URL. Note also that the body contains the username and password code entered. So this sends the request and awaits the response, which will come back with metadata like HTTP headers. The second await you see here extracts and parses the JSON body and converts into a JavaScript object, data. So the server response will contain either login successful or invalid credentials set in server.js and contains a success boolean. If not successful, i.e. the login did not match any stored user credentials, then we get a warning which disappears after a few seconds. Note that this +page.svelte file is client-side, so there is no reference to the stored data here. OK, in the markup, if the login was successful, we call the dashboard with the username. And if not successful, then we display the login screen with inputs for username and password, the login button, and the login fail message. That's the +page.svelte code. So, what happens after next? Good question, as you need to understand the flow of the code. The +page.svelte file sends out the HTTP request and SvelteKit routes this request to the server.js file for that route. The server.js file processes the request, server-side, and sends back a response to the client, +page.svelte. So, next, we open the server.js file. Keep in mind that we are now server-side. We import the user's data securely. I have a simple password hash function here which takes the numeric input and changes it to character and then reverses it. Normally you would use a more secure hashing service to store passwords more securely. And the main function of the server.js is the handling of the post HTTP request. I'm leaving in the code but commented out a number of console.logs, which were for debugging. You might want to uncomment these and check the console to see what these show. OK, so this function parses the request body and extracts the username and code and then validates by finding the user and using the simple hash function to hash the password entered and compare it to the user's stored password. If the user and password matches, then you see the response is a JSON string with the boolean success as true and the message login successful. This is what will be returned to the routing file, +page.svelte. If not successful, you see the response with success false and invalid credentials. If an error occurs, then this is caught and you get an appropriate response. Also, a check is made here to ensure that the input is only numeric or alpha. A check is made client-side, but in case this is breached, a check is also made server-side. And finally, open up the dashboard.svelte file. If the login was successful, then +page.svelte will run this component, which would typically be a dashboard for your application. And that, my friends, covers all of the code for this exercise. Yes, it was quite a bit, but we covered a lot of new ground here. If any of this is unfamiliar to you, I suggest you replay the video and get familiar with the code. We will be doing some of this in a couple of challenges. When you are ready, I will see you in the next video for another exercise.